Now we're live. All right. Hey there, this is Carol Wayne. I'm the host of the Reinvention show, and today I have the great pleasure of introducing you to my friend and my mentor, Sally Anderson. Hey, Sally.
Hi, how you going?
Sally's coming all the way from New Zealand today. So, Sally, you're breaking up quite a bit. Are you wireless or are you plugged in?
Plugged in.
Okay. All right, no worries. So I'm going to read your bio, and then we're going to talk about your reinvention story because it's one of the most amazing reinvention stories I've ever heard. So.
Thanks.
So Sally is the world expert in sustainable transformation, emotionally, cognitively, physically, and spiritually. She's passionate about the advancement of human performance and is pioneering new ways of being in human consciousness through providing her revolutionary education via keynote speaking, leadership coaching, leadership development programs, corporate and public retreats. I can't speak today. Retreats and coach certification. Sally founded her breakthrough leadership and human performance companies after 20 years of high-flying corporate experience. At the time of 9/11, she was the program director responsible for a major change initiative in a Fortune 500 company and commuting between the US and Europe. The terrorist attack gave Sally pause to examine her priorities and purpose and how she could best make a difference. As a result, she returned to New Zealand to channel her passion for human advancement, her hard-won wisdom, and her valuable experiences into the development of a curriculum that would sustainably transform the lives of others. Her unique personal perspectives, traumatic history, and eventual mastery as a transformational coach provides a rare combination of talents. This laid the foundation for a vocation to help others achieve a similar transcendence. As a result, Sally has a sound knowledge base for her philosophy and teachings and their application in the personal and professional realm. Her determination to regain her life from the most dehumanizing experience imaginable to dedicating her life to helping others has shaped her personal development and destiny to become one of the preeminent speakers and transformation coaches of her time. Sally's own story, broadcast on 60 Minutes in 2004, garnered the show's highest ever ratings in New Zealand and won the Qantas Humanitarian Award that same year. Pretty impressive there, Sally.
Well, thank you.
So why don't you tell us your story?
Oh, where to start? I was brought up for part of my life in Canada, as it happens. My father was a guidance counsellor in the schooling system, and he wanted to advance his career in guidance counselling. So he packed up his 4 kids, and we came and lived in Vancouver, in Squamish, in Braylorn. I was 2 years of age, and then we stayed till I was 6, and then we returned to New Zealand, and I had a pretty staunch Canadian accent when I came home. So I was born in New Zealand, so I have fond memories in my earliest years in Canada. And great upbringing. My father was an only child, so he wanted his children to have the best of the best and do what they really wanted to do and what they were passionate about. And so I learned to ski on Whistler Mountain, and I was a keen skier. And so I got my first job hiring out skis in a local resort in the North Island of New Zealand. And to cut a very long story short, I experienced something at the age of 15, 16 years of age where I hitchhiked as a young person. So in the early 80s, a lot of people used to hitchhike into the local township. And for those of you who can remember getting your first pay packet, you know, it's pretty exciting. You can spend the money on what you want to spend it on. And we shopped till we dropped. And I always looked a lot older than what I was and a bit rebellious. We went into the local bar. And what we didn't realize, my girlfriend and I, as we walked into the bar, it was being cased out by a notorious gang here in New Zealand called the Mongrel Mob. My bag went missing, my girlfriend went missing. I went outside to look for her, and 8 Mongrel Mob members pulled up in a car and threw me inside. they started attacking me from every aspect, and the terror that I felt at the time was one thing, but also the terror of the unknown of where I was being taken. Um, they decided to strip me of my clothes. They drove me to the local hangout in this township, and what proceeded over the next 10 to 12 hours was that they dragged me by my hair naked past women and children and threw me onto a butcher's block in the garage. And over a 10 to 12 hour period, I was gang raped by more than 100 Mongrel Mob members and literally died on the block. And I was conscious throughout the ordeal. In the morning, they threw me onto the back of a truck, 3 in the back, 2 in the front. The rapes continued and abducted me and took me to another township about an hour and a half away. In the morning, I was left on my own. I was beaten black and blue, couldn't walk, couldn't talk. I had an opportunity to escape, and the irony of when you are in a terrifying situation, the psychology of staying with the known, because I didn't think anybody would help me. And they came and got me, and the rapes continued until I lost consciousness. And the head of the Mongrel Mob in Tikawiti had been away. He finds me in his house in the afternoon. Nobody else was there. Asks me where I'm from, clothes me, drives me back to where I was staying, and drops me on the side of the road and demands petrol money. Didn't quite have any money on me at the time. I went home. I had a bath for hours. I really cannot describe the feeling. I woke up the next day. I went back to work. I'd been abducted over a 2-3 day period. And obviously the police were called and my parents were called. So for those of you listening, who have daughters, what on earth do you say to your daughter? My parents didn't know what to say. And I was interrogated and physically checked over, and it was, in the early 80s, there was a lack of support for the victim. It was a 6-hour drive home with my family. My parents didn't know what to say, so it was in silence, so I separated again. And it was go back to school, act like it didn't happen. So when you've been abducted and gang raped and held hostage and face the terror of being murdered, you learn a few things, and you're not able to relate to the average human being. So I internalized everything because I wasn't allowed to say anything, and I never really came out about my past until I turned 30. So I adopted every dysfunctional behavior known to man: self-loathing, self-hatred. Maggots wouldn't come close to what I thought about myself. Drugs, alcohol, sexual addiction. And it took me 25 years to put the pieces back together. I ended up being a course junkie over a good 20-plus year period. I was a suicidal maniac. My brother died when I was 23, and it's the only reason why I didn't commit suicide, the only reason. Because I saw the devastation that it had with my parents, and I couldn't put them through another death. You always think you're going to outlive your kids. And I am who I am today as a function of, your story does not define who you are. Your story is the backbone of your character, of how you show up in the world. The Mongrel Mob were my spiritual initiators. Had it not have happened, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So there's not many people that I sit in front of in the vocation that I have today where I don't understand the shoes that they come from. And I am alive today because of my faith. And I am a spiritual teacher, and amongst the array of other things that I do, and believe that I am a fearless practitioner, so wanting to make inroads into counselling and psychotherapy, because I believe that when you've gone beyond the concept of human terror and come back of your own accord, there's certain things that aren't written in the textbooks of old. And when you've had a direct experience of going beyond that concept, it is hard to relate to the average human being, but I do believe as a fearless practitioner I have the ability to be able to teach people something that is very unique, because we were born intuitive, born connected, and born fearless. It's not something that I need to teach people, it's something that I need to remind them to reclaim as their birthright. So as far as reinvention is concerned, I call it unrecognizable transformation. I am unrecognizable to myself from the person of old, and now have the ability to be able to teach people for the rest of my life on how to reclaim any aspect of their past and be able to heal their past.
Oh, you froze on me. Oh, there you are. You're back.
There you go.
Sorry. So, what was it that caused you to just say, wait a minute, I can't do this to myself anymore, and to start down this path? Because you told us before that there was only 3 other women that had escaped. Is that right?
So the 2 other women that experienced a similar experience to me, one committed suicide, one ended up in an asylum. I'm very clear I shouldn't be here today. So the point by which everything changed was when I was 30, so I'm now 48 years of age. I was in a course and I was suicidal, and I was so up against having tried everything. And I'd read the books, I'd listened to the CDs, I'd been to the courses, but I found it difficult to sustain change. And on the stage, the course leader said to me, Sally, do you not get the degree to which you're a victim? And I wanted to deck him because of the many things that I thought about myself. Victim wasn't one of them because I thought victim meant weakness. And when I found out the distinction that weakness is about feeling powerless to change the situation, in that moment it was like a ticker-tape parade across my entire life. The distinction choice. I have a choice on how I feel. I have a choice on what I think. I have a choice on what I do. That I'd created the trajectory of my life in a certain way as a function of how I was thinking. How many books do we need to read that say, be careful what you think, your thoughts create your reality, yet we're not responsible for what we're thinking, stinking thinking, right? So I was, for 20 plus years, creating the reality of my world, not realizing that I had a choice in the matter. I just thought life was doing it to me. So when I got the distinction choice, and when I got the distinction of that I didn't have to be powerless about the situation, that I could actually change the situation, pretty much from 30 to 48, I have completely reinvented every area of my life to an unrecognizable degree, and have the skills now to be able to assist others in that regard, because I have no interest in associating my brand with something that's not transformative. I'm wanting to bring a level of unprecedented authenticity into the personal and professional development movement, because I believe part of reinvention, part of being unrecognizable, is that you walk your talk, not just talk it.
Now, you and I have had some conversations. Now, you firmly believe that to reinvent yourself professionally, you need to start with the person first. Right?
It amuses me, the amount of people in business who say, I only want to focus on the business. And that, in their regard, discounts anything that they want to look at a personal level. So be that a corporation, or be that entrepreneurialism, or anybody who is in business, your business is a function of where you operate at a personal level. Believe that 110%. So when I work with somebody, 10% of my focus is on what they've come to see me about, which is predominantly their business or their entrepreneurial venture. 90% of my focus is on every other area of their life. You can't tell me that if the relationship with their family doesn't have an impact on the business, the relationship with their wife or husband doesn't have an impact on the business, the relationship they have with themselves with reference to their own personal boundaries, on their ability to be able to sustain being in an empowered state on an ongoing basis. If you haven't done the personal work on yourself, I believe that your brand becomes your nemesis. So when I went out on my own, it was first called Stepping Out Limited, and all I got to see was where I didn't step out. And then it was called Live Now, and all I got to see was where I wasn't living in the now. And then I called it Freefall. So then I got to see all the areas of my life where I didn't freefall. And now, having branded under my own name, which is the ultimate, I believe, is you need to be representative of what you're standing for within your brand. And I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on my own personal development, and believe that it was an investment. Whilst people were at university, I was doing my own university degree with reference to having done a lot of research in the area of personal and professional development, and part of the game that I'm playing at the moment is going, what is the new vanguard beyond personal and professional development? I call it individual and organizational transcendence. You actually physically die as you know yourself. And I joke about, people like, really, you want to come and spend money with Sally Anderson to die as you know yourself, but it's actually true that I specialize in what I call the default identity, and most people aren't aware of it. So the game I'm wanting to play with coaching CEOs, the ability to be able to operate at a fearless level. And as anybody working with the human condition, counselors, psychotherapists, social workers, doctors, the ability for them to have this education such that they understand their own default, then being able to speak into the client's default. If you're unaware of it, you're unable to shift them to the degree that I believe is possible. And so part of the education and part of the launch to America right now is to be able to impart the distinctions about the education, because nobody globally is focusing on the sustainability element of personal or professional transformation. And people tolerate not getting the transformation that they want. And I'm excited about bringing the education to America, and because there's a lot of people in pain, whether they're associated to that pain or not in business. So back to your original question, do I believe that complete reinvention is a function of you understanding yourself integrally at a personal level? Because if you're wanting to transform any aspect of your business, it starts and ends with where you're operating personally.
Sorry, I'm was a little distracted there. I apologize, because Joyce, we can actually see you. Sorry. You might want to turn your video off, hon. So, yeah, sorry about that, Sally.
It's okay.
So, when you talk to people about their default, do they understand that concept, or how do you explain that to them?
Well, I normally work with people who are highly trained. So does it require explanation? Yes, it does. I call it the default because we automatically default there, a bit like a computer program. And most people don't realize how disassociated they are from what's not working in their life. I teach people to not tolerate anything. So most people are unaware of the degree to which they tolerate what's not working. And the default mechanism is a function of, in the study of ontology, the study of what it is to be human, they distinguish that there are incidences in your childhood where you decided something of a negative nature as a result of the negative experience, and you separated, and you learnt to not trust. And so part of what people don't realize is that they have a little boy or a little girl running the show. I believe there's a lot of little boys and little girls running our organizations and corporations. Because a lot of people say to me, Sally, why when I've come to see you about my business, are you talking to me about my childhood? I go, well, most organizations, most human-to-human related interactions are default orientated. Somebody's disempowered, they trigger somebody else and they're disempowered. I call that default-based interaction. If you haven't noticed, nobody wins in that interaction. So part of what I train people to do is become aware of this default mechanism. I believe, and I've proven it, that you can actually die to your default level of identity. And I'm a walking example of that. And as an example, to be human is to have an inner critic, that internal voice that beats the crap out of you. Nobody talks about it, yet it annihilates human potential. The fact that we don't have mastery of the inner critic in the schooling system is a crime. There's only 4 things that disempower a human being, and I call it human static. We are disempowered by fear, which is only a projection. We are disempowered by confusion, which is always a function of the default. How convenient, you don't know, you don't have to be responsible. You are disempowered by these beautiful things that people love to feed every day called issues, problems, and challenges. I'm here to tell you they don't exist. They are only projections. And the inner critic. So, most people have, if I talk to a 9-year-old who has an inner critic, that's one thing. When I talk to a 49-year-old who's had 40 years of self-beration, and, it denies the potential of what a human being can accomplish. And the irony is, when you no longer sell out to the human static of fear, issues, problems, challenges, inner critic, and confusion, you actually hear your intuition. Intuition is the main voice. And you were born intuitive. So for those of you who have children who are listening, you can easily prove that they are in the beingness state. They are connected, they are intuitive, and they are fearless. We were born that way. So part of the job that I do is basically bring people back to that, because everything is a projection at the end of the day. We live in a very disconnected, disassociated society, and bringing people home to accessing the beingness state versus the doingness state, which, when I look at entrepreneurs who are trying to reinvent themselves or reinvent their business, it's very difficult if they are not aware of something higher than themselves. I don't care what people call it: higher power, universal force, collective consciousness, God, electricity. really give a damn what you call it, so long as you hook into it. Because to me, co-creation is the most important element of any reinvention journey. And so co-creative leadership is what I teach CEOs at the highest level, fish tanks from the head down. Where the business is operating is a function of where you're operating. And, I can say that from direct experience, having, reinvented my own business over 11 years, and in the process of doing it yet again with launching in America right now.
Mm-hmm. Now, we also had a conversation about health, because one of my friends has some health issues right now, and we were talking about how, what was it that you called it? No, was it psychosomatic? Is that the right word?
Right, anything that you manifest on the physical is what you're not dealing with on the emotional?
Yeah. Can you
Yeah,
speak to
so,
that a little
sure.
bit?
Again, most people don't realize how powerful they are. So I am a true believer that whatever you manifest on the physical is what you're not dealing with on the emotional. And so a lot of people in business seem to tolerate stress, overwhelm, frustration, that type of ilk. I just call it the default because they're all disempowered feelings. And to me, we complicate the hell out of transformation. It is very simplistic. But to reinvent yourself to that degree and to die to your default identity, who would you be in that identity? So most entrepreneurs struggle with, or most people in business struggle with showing up to the magnitude that they would like, because that they would be judged, assessed, and criticized. And as far as your equilibrium, your ability to sustain being in your power all the time, which I believe is possible, is a function of your commitment. But most people really don't understand the concept of commitment. Commitment equals results. If the results are not being produced in the area that you say you're committed, you're not committed. So stress and anxiety and pressure and all those types of things that we tolerate as entrepreneurs or CEOs or business owners, people often then, as a result, become unhealthy, or they don't have personal boundaries in place to look after themselves. We tend to put the oxygen mask on everybody else versus ourselves. I think anybody who's been in business over a 10-year period knows that they normally learn through experience that you've got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you put it on other people. And as a leader, the biggest issue, I believe, for any leader is the ability to let go as your company expands, and to alleviate the pressure that you are under, and to be able to ensure that you've got the right people on the right seat, on the right bus, going in the right direction.
Now, what is sorry. I want to go in so many different directions right now, but where I'd like to go right now is you have 5 tips for reinvention. So can we talk about those, and then we can expand on them as well?
Sure. The fifth one is faith. I believe that if you have your faith, you have everything. So most people look for security in bricks and mortar, in a bank balance, in relationship. But more often than not, when that is stripped away from you, what do you have? So I believe the tsunamis, the earthquakes, the tornadoes, the acts of God that are happening right now, it's kind of like the planet's being woken up. When you're stripped of everything, I closed down 2 businesses 4.5 years ago, and I had the wrong people on the wrong seat, on the wrong bus, going in the wrong direction. And I wouldn't wish that experience on my worst enemy, but it was an opportunity for me to reinvent myself, reinvent my brands. I wasn't listening, and I wouldn't have come home willingly. I call coming home that ability to actually come back to your center and get in tune with who you are beyond your ego, edging God out. So I have had a number of experiences in my life that have been extremely adverse, and I believe that the journey of my path of having experienced many adverse situations is I'm here to teach people that you don't have to do what I did. I could write the book on not how to do it. So faith would be the first thing, and it's not so much what you call it, it's that ability to know that you're not alone. As a spiritual being, you're never alone. And I know that there's no way that I would still be in business after 11 years, and there's no way that I would be embarking on launching on the other side of the world if I didn't do it congruent to my faith. And when I talk about faith, I'm not necessarily talking about religion, but I also respect that whatever that is for you, that's relevant for the individual. The second thing I'd say is the mantra that I have, that I live by, that if everything is perfect just the way it is, and just the way it isn't, who do you need to be being in this moment, and this moment, and this moment? Because I can tell you for free, there's been many things that I've experienced in my life that haven't felt like it was perfect. But if you view it from that standpoint, trusting that everything happens for a reason, what's the reason behind it, rather than going into blame or being a victim or questioning the situation? Because a lot of people in business hang out in confusion. Confusion is the death nail. It is a function of the default because it doesn't have you be responsible. You can abdicate responsibility and I don't know. To me, a sign of a good coach is that you never answer a question. You facilitate a conversation with the individual to answer their own question, and they always do 100% of the time. So to me, I'm more interested in people sourcing, the cliche statement, all of the answers lie within. Well, it's true. So that mantra really applies for me and keeps me in with reference to not being a victim of my own business and being able to look at everything from a high level of consciousness. The third thing is another mantra that I use, which is think, do, say, be equals forwarding the game. To live at a high level of consciousness and sustaining being in one's power is a function of being committed. So I train people to, who would you be if every single thing that you thought, did, said, or were being actually forwarded your game? Most people don't even know what their game is with crystal clear clarity. I'm very clear on what my game is. I have a very powerful 20-year vision of what I'm here to accomplish. This little Kiwi girl from New Zealand, taking on the world. So I live by it. So everything I think, everything that I say, that I do, that I'm being, if it's not congruent to forwarding the game, I don't think it's say it, do it, or be it. So that means living at a very high level of consciousness. But I'm very clear on what I value. I'm very clear on what I'm motivated by, and I'm motivated by love. So all I get to see every day is where I'm not loving, and that's where the work is to be done. One finger pointing out, three fingers pointing back. But I also am the most proficient, I believe, in shifting my state, regardless of circumstance. The third, I would say, is that co-creation is the most essential ingredient for reinvention. And by co-creation, I mean it's like a national grid, a power grid. How do you hook into the power grid and stay connected? So with CEOs, for example, not that they vacuum, but the analogy I use is, what would it be like if you tried to vacuum but you hadn't plugged in and turned on the power? A bit tricky. But most people live their life in business like that. Yet you have a co-creative force that you are a part of. You are just a conduit that can hook into that source. And if you stay connected, then you experience what it means to live in the zone. People have moments of being in the zone, but they don't experience living in the zone, where you become the conduit to attract synchronistic opportunities to come to you, where things happen in flow with ease. And you've got a choice moment by moment whether you're in fear or love, whether you're connected or disconnected, whether you're in the doing the state or the being the state. When I coach people, I'm not interested in what they do. I'm interested in who they're being, and that from the being state they generate what needs to be done. So that's keeping them in an experiential state rather than an analytical state. Because to shift anybody in a sustainable way, you need to shift them experientially. So co-creation, I believe, is essential, and it's on tap, it's free, you can hook in any time. And so I am a co-creative leader. I coach co-creatively. I'm a coach intuitive, and intuition is the main channel. If you're driving in the car and you're listening to the radio and you're trying to tune into the music, most people don't know what their music is, and you wouldn't stay on the static channel. Most people stay in the static and they're not aware of it. So being able to get people really clear on what their legacy is. Legacy is the most profound conversation you can facilitate with a human being on the planet. What are you doing here? What is your DNA calling you to be in the world? And is your responsibility to show up in that regard? Which segues well into the last one, which is judgment equals mastery of compassion. I got this out of my own experience where I have always experienced trust and betrayal issues in my life. And I have always been judged, assessed, and criticized because I didn't fit. I was different. And all my life, all I wanted to do was fit in, and I never did. Now I celebrate that I'm different, and that it is everybody, I believe, has their own uniqueness, and that needs to be celebrated. We were born magnificent, and then we forgot. So I got to a point where I got down on my knees one day, and I said, right, send in everybody to judge, assess, and criticize me, and just surrender to that degree of judgment, assessment, and criticism, because that's when I will be able to master coming from compassion. And coming from compassion basically means coming from love. What would love do in this moment? So, I'm experiencing a new level of transition within my own business, launching overseas. There's, again, a lot of changes within the business. And as a result of that, there's more judgment, assessment, and criticism going on. And that's been an ongoing journey in 11 years. I believe it's part and parcel of any reinvention, or part and parcel of any form of expansion, any form of transformative journey. I am a change agent. My background corporately was in the corporate world, implementing belief, behavioural, and cultural change at a very large level. And I was always the bitch from hell because I was the one implementing the change. And my last assignment was 3,000 projects at the height of the assignment, based in the Netherlands, Boston, and New York before September 11th hit. And I understand change. I understand the nuances of what occurs for an individual, and I have compassion for the fear that people have. But when you are a spiritual being, fear is only but a barometer if you disconnect from your faith. So if people don't have faith, then I can totally understand their shoes of how fearful it can be, because I have lived for 20, 25 years every day with massive fear and anxiety attacks 24/7. So I've lived at opposite extremities. So I speak from a lot of street cred around living half of my life in extreme fear and living the remainder of my life in love, and being able to teach that. That, to me, it is extraordinary to come from love, to be a contribution. Listen, people, is great. Yes, even in business. And that's what I'm standing for: power-based cultures versus default-based cultures within corporations, within any organization, such that we can sustain experiencing being in our power. So those would be the 5 key elements.
Right. Now, you and I have talked about getting your education into the school system. How would that change what's happening?
Well, part of my 20-year vision is to establish co-creative schools, co-creative universities, that awareness-based training is an integral process within the schooling system. We're impacting future generations that aren't even born yet by still teaching 1 to 3 dimensional teachings in our schooling system. By that I mean, when you are living in a 1 to 3 dimensional world, you are living in the realm of meaning, and all of human suffering is a function of what we make things mean. When you're living in the realm of 4th, 5th dimension and beyond, you are in the realm of equanimity, where you are able to learn to be the observer of all that is without reaction. So part of Steiner, for example, created their own education curriculum. They did not try and infiltrate mainstream, but now, because their education is tried and proven, now mainstream is adopting it. I believe that part of wanting to launch myself on the Keynote Speaker Network in America, and to have my 20-year vision heard, that I'm not undermining the semantics of maths and biology and the basics within school, but I believe that awareness-based training should be as integral. That mastery of the inner critic, for example, needs to be key as a core curriculum within the schooling system. And nobody talks about it. And of everything that I've researched globally, there are education curriculums out there that teach you how to manage it, coordinate yourself around it. Some even recommend wearing a rubber band, flicking yourself every time your inner critic goes off, as if you haven't inflicted enough freaking pain on yourself. It's just crazy. So there's nobody globally focusing on mastering it. So I've proven it off the back of my life experience. And so I believe that out of me finding my voice through keynote speaking, be it doing a TED Talks, being heard by global leaders, that the movement will start, of the buy-in to that there is another way. I'm challenging currently the pharmaceutical industries, because I don't believe in depression. It's a whole new topic. And I also wanting to transcend the way counselling and psychotherapy is done, because I'm all about full disclosure versus non-disclosure. So as far as the schooling system is concerned, Sally Anderson trying to change the way the existing schooling system works, forget it. Sally Anderson co-creatively, get out of my way. To me, when you operate co-creatively, you set an intention, and that you back your intention by walking it, and that other people will resonate and hear what it is that you have to say, and then from a co-creative standpoint, it will eventuate. It's a bit like tell God your plans and make him laugh. You know, it's not for me to dictate as to when or how. It will just transpire as a function of who I'm being.
Oh, very cool. Now, you've got your free fall book, right? You've got your free fall experience, your 3-day retreat, which I've been to, and some of my other guests have been to, and it was absolutely freaking fantastic. Oh my God. I still like, oh yeah, I can't tell you that, but it was really, really good. That's what I keep saying. And what else do you have going on there, Sally?
So the free fall book came out in 2011, and it's the before and after application of the education. I share of my past at the back of the book to give impetus as to why I do what I do. I share about a co-creative summit at the back of the book. So I'm standing to bring 50 of the top transformational leaders to Queenstown in New Zealand, which I believe is a spiritual centre for leadership. And nobody's ever brought that forum together. And I believe that there's a need to channel in silence as a collective, to hear what is required. We have the power on the planet now to make the difference. And it astounds me that the transformational leaders that we have in the world do not collaborate or co-create to that regard. So for a little Kiwi girl who had the courage to document it in a book and is speaking very loud and clear about it, it's starting to gain some interest from those in positions of power internationally. So it's a permission book. I believe it gives people permission to take their power back. And it seems to be landing well in the market. I'm in the process of writing my second book called The Co-Creative Age. We're in the information age right now. I believe the next age is the co-creative age, so I thought I'd go and claim it because nobody else has. And I believe that part of that book is to educate those within leadership that traditional leadership is dead. It is still in that 1 to 3 dimensional world. That 4th to 5th dimension and beyond is where the future of true co-creative leadership is to be had. And so to be the conduit to take leadership to a whole new level globally is a very humbling experience. We've just produced a 9 CD kit that pretty much encapsulates the education. I've interviewed over the 9 CDs. There are 8 concepts per CD. The feedback from the CDs has been great. Part of the byline on the CDs is that, you know, if you don't want to transform, don't buy these CDs, because again, I'm not wanting to associate with anything that's not sustainable. What I can prove is that the education is sustainable. What I can't prove or demand of people is whether they apply it or not. That is their own individual choice based on their commitment. We have the 3-day experience retreats that you just mentioned. So I'm back in New Zealand for a couple of months, and we're regrouping, and we are looking at launching in September in Salt Lake City, in Santa Barbara as well, in October in New York and San Diego, potentially November in Vancouver. And then we have coach certification, so we're starting our first group of US coaches in the United States. I can only take 12 people per intake for that, and that's starting in January, which is really exciting. We have 7 people interested of a very high caliber, and I would be humbled and grateful and privileged to go on this journey in the United States and globally to expand this education to a wider market. So yeah, we're looking at providing people with an alternative. We're not the truth, the way, and the light by any shape of the imagination. But I think people are ready for learning about why they haven't been able to get the return on the investment. There are a lot of people that I know that have spent a lot of money on their personal and or professional transformation and have struggled with being able to sustain it. So the key aspect of the work that we do is teaching people why and how to reclaim their power, how to experience the level of transformation that they want and go beyond that and experience complete and utter transcendence. So that's the bigger game that we're playing.
So I'm going to show your CDs. Hold on. Oh. Here they are, right here.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. You'll notice that I've opened them. No. No, that's really cool. I just want to share a story because I have had a needle in the past. I had a needle phobia. A needle phobia so bad that I carried a requisition to get my blood work done in my wallet from September through till June. And one conversation with Sally, and I don't know what happened. I really don't know what happened. I'm still figuring that one out, but I got off that call with Sally and I went and I got my blood work done. Yeah. You're pretty impressive, and the way that you get into the minds of the people that you work, it floors me. And I'm like, what? You know what? And then I was like, oh shit, well I may as well just go get my blood work done. And there you go.
Well,
Now
yeah,
I've got another one coming up in 2 weeks.
but the distinction I think that you got was, first of all, I don't buy into any labels. So something like a phobia, for me, is just the default. The fact that you'd tolerated it for a lifetime, all I did was get you present to what you were committed to. If you're committed to your health and addressing your thyroid issue, then that will play out over and above buying out on a childhood experience. Is it the child running the show or the adult running the show? Again, it is very simplistic. It is not complex. But to associate, we have to alter who we're being. And when you think about the money that you've expended on psychoanalyzing your phobia, that too is something getting present to the cost of that. And what I admire about the speed with which you shifted, having distinguished, well, and here's the thing, you can either sell out to this thing that you call a phobia, how convenient because you don't have to be responsible, or you can get committed to your health and actually do something about it and get new evidence. And I believe that coaching to cause versus symptom, the symptom is the phobia, but what's actually causing it? And I can shift people very fast. I probably only need about 10, 15 minutes, regardless of whether it's a lifetime paradigm or what it is, because symptom versus cause always plays out. So I coach to cause, not symptom, because I'm interested in people truly understanding what's running the show so they can take their power back in a sustainable way and be able to do that ongoingly.
Yeah, well, you can do it. You can absolutely do it. So if people want to hire you as a keynote, where's the best place to go to reach you?
Great. So I'm a true believer that it's a speaker's responsibility to be remembered. And when I've been investigating the whole international keynote speaker arena for quite a number of years now, and when I look at speakers, take for example in the last 5 or 10 years, can you remember the names of the speakers that you've heard and the ones that really stood out for you, and what was the message? So my biggest fear was public speaking, go figure, and now I'm wanting to launch myself as one of the leading female keynote speakers in America. And I also believe, as a subject matter expert, as an entrepreneur, as a thought leader, as a pioneer, that sometimes we have a tendency to be so preoccupied with our own content and preoccupied with our own message that we forget about the recipient, the audience. So after 11 years of being in business, that whole concept of you've got to clock your 10,000 hours, you've got to, overnight success takes 10 years, I have to agree with them. So from a keynote speaking perspective, I'm interested in speaking at large leadership forums, anything to do with transformation. And at the moment I can be contacted care of support at sally-anderson.com. The Sally Anderson website is www.sally-anderson.com. You can find out information both on the Sally Anderson International side of the business, which is all to do with leadership, as well as anything to do with the Freefall business, which is to do with the personal development side of the business.
Now, Sally, is there anything that I should have asked you that I haven't asked you yet?
In the context of reinvention, and for those listening, some parting words. You don't have to tolerate what's not working. That would be number one. And have a look at one of the things that I recommend is to write a list of 50 things that you tolerate, both personally and professionally. And tolerate, the distinction is what is a persistent complaint. Now, here's the thing. There are many things that I'm yet to accomplish within my own business. There are many things, especially launching internationally, there's quite a few dynamics going on, but I'm not in complaint about it. So when you look at where you're at with your satisfaction level, your business is exactly where it needs to be for where you're at personally. So if you're wanting the trajectory of your business to, it's not the semantics of the bottom line, it's not the semantics of sales, it's not the semantics of 99.9% of where your business is at as a function of where you're operating. And, I'm talking from my own experience, and I look at my own business and where it's at and where it's yet to be. And it is an ongoing reinvention. You just don't reinvent yourself once. For the entrepreneurs out there, for the CEOs out there, anybody in business, till the last breath that you take, reinvention is an ongoing thing. And that journey, that the cliche statement of it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. 9 times out of 10, that has to do with the equilibrium of how you feel. And if you haven't done the personal development work on yourself, it is critical for you to be able to sustain the success that you want externally. So focusing on what you tolerate, and I'm here to tell you, you don't have to tolerate it. Secondly, that reinvention is an ongoing thing, but to really put personal development high on the Richter scale with reference to you wanting to have sustainable results within your business. And probably the third thing, going back to the 5 key points that I raised earlier, is that I never willingly wanted to explore my faith. I was somebody who was a control freak, who was very much a vehement driver, striver, doer. I was terrified of the unknown. I would try and control everything. The downfall of any leader is the inability to let go. And again, that is an ongoing letting go process. The more that you expand, the more that you step out, the more that one is encouraged to let go. And I think for most leaders, it's also trusting that it's okay to let go for the business to expand. So those would probably be the 3 main things that I'd like to leave your listeners with today.
So I see a couple of chats, so I'm just going to see if anyone's asked any questions.
Yeah, if there's any questions, feel free to.
Yeah, sorry, Sally, there's not. All right. But yeah, for that one, didn't I? So,
is there anything from your perspective today?
Pardon me?
Is there anything from your perspective today?
When I first heard you speak, which was in Los Angeles in January, or was it February?
March.
March. Holy. Okay. You forever changed my life. Seeing you speak on stage was so powerful. There wasn't a dry eye in the place. And from that moment that I saw you, and I'm like, I got to get to know this person. And as you said, the universe brought us together for a reason. And I am so looking forward to helping you spread your message, because it's so, so powerful and so, so needed.
I feel humbled by your acknowledgement. It was my debut keynote in America, and to get the standing ovation and to get the feedback that I have was extraordinary. And I'm just passionate about what I do. And I had somebody recently in the retreat ask me, Sal, and it was actually my birthday, and you were there, so you know, say to me, why on earth would you work on your birthday? And I said, to me, this isn't work. It's my passion, and it's the best birthday present anybody could give. The work that I do is the most rewarding vocation, to be able to assist people in their reinvention, their own transformation, their own unrecognizable transformation. And I think people deserve to get a return on their investment, because most people have tried for many years and invested in a cross-section of personal and or professional development curricula. So I feel like a Bill Gates waiting to go off of what I've got, and I'm excited about that. And it's people like you that I completely honour, who show up and apply the education and who are advocates for the work. And to be partnered with by somebody of your calibre humbles me.
Oh, thank you. So On that note, before I burst into tears, thank you very, very much, Sally. We will put your website and all your contact information on the site. And when we launch the show, put the episode on the site, I'll certainly let you know, and then you can let everyone else know too. So.
Thank you very much for the opportunity today.
All right.
And thank you for those of you who've been listening. It's been a privilege.
All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
If you'd like Carol to help you with your reinvention, reach out to her by going to her website and completing the Contact Us form, or send her an email at carol@carolwayne.com. She's also available on Skype at IDICarol, and on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, all Carol Wayne. Hey there, the 30-day challenge and the 90-day fast track programs are coming soon. Please go to carolwayne.com for details.
Now we're live. All right.